271. Today's date is September 5th, 2024. Of course, first day of the NFL season. As you're going to be here watching our NFL preview special, something we try to do every year. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll give you all my predictions, playoff predictions, who I think will win MVP, who I think will be in Super Bowl 59, and more. So we had a big show ahead of us today. I'll go through all 32 teams and their schedules and basically give you um, my expectations or my predictions for this year in the NFL. NFL uh, is the best time of the year, man. I love the NFL. A big game tonight. AFC Championship rematch, Ravens at Chiefs. I think it's a big game for both teams tonight. Um, so we'll see how everything shakes out. I think this game is going to set the tone for the season. So that's why I think it's a very important game for both teams. But we will get into that. We'll look at week one games. But first, we're just going to go through every division. I'll give you the winner. And will be in Super Bowl 59. So we're going to go through everything. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for the support of late. We had 309 subscribers. So thank you so much. Of course, we're trying to get to 500 before this year is over with. So thank you guys for that. Y'all been enjoying the little shorts of the Nintendo shorts, but we'll be back into the PlayStation realm as well. Hopefully, I'm saying this time maybe mid October. I'm hoping to be back into the PlayStation fray. So, but I've been enjoying doing the Nintendo shorts as well, the retro games and stuff. I'll probably post one today. So stay tuned for that. But we're just going to stick to the NFL today. That's all we're going to stick to. We're not going to touch on baseball or the NBA or nothing else. This is the NFL's day. So we're about to go through all the teams. I'm going to start the NFC because the NFC to me was a little bit easier to do. The AFC, of course, was tough. Pretty much the whole conference, like I said, had pretty decent teams in it. The NFC, um, you pretty much know who the good team's going to be. So it's easier for me to go through that. But still, I'm going to go through the NFC first and I'm going to go through the AFC. Then we'll talk about my playoff teams. Then I'll give you my predictions for the awards: MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Um, and then who I think will make it all the way to Super Bowl 59. But thank you guys, like I said, for the late support of late. I appreciate you guys so much. Let's start the NFC. Like I said, we're gonna start the NFC East. NFC East is another well, not well. It's a tough division because it's always just competitive. I don't think nobody repeated as the division champion in like 20 years, something crazy like that. So, but I think it's only pretty much two teams here, maybe three, because I like Washington as well. The Giants, as we go start with them, I think they're going to finish last in the division. A lot of pressure on Daniel Jones this year. We'll see if he can play well. I hope so for his sake, but this is a big year for him. The Giants, they just try to put things together. I think they'd be a decent defensive team. But they don't think they don't have enough. I think losing Saquon Barkley was huge, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and just for the locker room. I think the Giants going to have a rough year. Let's go through their schedule real quick. See if realistically how many games they could really win. I have it right here. They're at home this week against the Minnesota Vikings. That might be a winnable game because Minnesota dealing with quarterback issues as well. At Washington in week two, at Cleveland after that, then home for Dallas, at Seattle. That's gonna be a tough game as well. Versus Cincinnati and Philadelphia, two home games back to back. Then against Washington at home. Then a Germany game. They go to Germany and go to Carolina. That might be a wonderful game for them this year. That's week 10. Week 11 is they bye. Then they got Tampa at Dallas. Then they come home for the Saints. Like I said, maybe the Saints that maybe they can win that game. Then you got the Ravens at home. Then they go to Atlanta. Then they finish with Indy. at home, and then they go to Philly to end the season. So pretty tough schedule. I probably only see them winning 4 or 5 games minimum. I mean maximum. So I think it's going to be a tough year for the New York Giants. I got them finishing fourth in the East. Number third place, the Washington Commanders. Of course, they drafted the young kid Jalen Daniels. He looks pretty good in preseason. Let's see if it can translate to the regular season. I think just like any young quarterback who had ups and downs, but I think he's going to wind up being a good quarterback. Um, but Washington, like I said, they have some organizational problems. They trying to clean house. Now that Daniel Snyder sold the team, they try to get things together in the front office. There was a lot bad stuff going on, so they try to clean that up. I think they're in the right direction. I was talking. The funny thing is, I was talking to a Commanders fan about a week ago, and he's excited about his team. He don't like the name, but I told him like he should be proud. I think the Commanders is going in the right direction. Um, and maybe it could start this year. Since the NFC, I think the bottom half of the NFC is wide open. So possibly, maybe they could sneak into the playoffs. It's possible, but I don't think they will. I think they're probably just about out of the playoffs. But I think this year they should just focus on Jalen Daniels' development. If they do that, I think Washington will be good. I think next year probably be a year they could compete for the playoffs. So let's go through their schedule real quick. They start this week at Tampa. The Buccaneers, like I said, a very underrated team. That'll be a tough one for them. Then they host the Giants in week 2. Week 3 at Cincinnati. That'll be tough. Week 4 at Arizona. Maybe winnable game. They come home for Cleveland in week 5. Week 6 at Baltimore. Versus Carolina, week 7. That could be a win for them. Then at Chicago, that's going to be an anticipated game. Of course, Caleb Williams against Jalen Daniels. Um, then they on the road against the Giants, which was the division game. Then come back home for Pittsburgh. Then at Philly. Then home for Dallas and Tennessee, what goes into their bye week in week 14. Then week 15 at New Orleans. Then home for 2 straight, Philadelphia and Atlanta. Then they finish the season at Dallas. So not a terrible schedule. I think they can probably win some games. Like I said, I think they're gonna take a step forward this year. But as long as Jalen Daniels play well and catch up to the speed of the game, I think the Commanders will be happy with that season. Like I said, it's possible they can sneak into the playoffs, maybe as a wild card, but I don't see it this year. So I got the Commanders finishing third. Finishing second in the NFC East, I got the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys, I don't know. I just don't feel great about them this year. They got the talent. They signed CeeDee Lamb. They got to get Micah signed, but Micah, I guess, is okay right now. He can wait maybe another year. Dak is still unsigned, so I think until that happens, that's going to be a cloud over them all year. I think they should just go ahead and get it done. But the Dallas Cowboys are used to being in the news, used to being in the headlines, so maybe it might not affect them as much, but I just don't like it. I just don't like the vibe going into this season. Um, so I got to finish at second. And I don't have them making the playoffs either. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Um, I think they're going to just miss it this year. I think Philadelphia, of course, is the first place team. I think the only team that's going to come out this division this year in the playoffs. But the Cowboys, I just don't feel great about the vibe. It's more of a vibe thing. I think Dak will still play pretty decently. The run game is still an issue on offense. So they did get Zeke back, but Zeke is nowhere near what he used to be. They signed Dalvin Cook to the practice squad, so I think he'll probably come up soon to be on the main roster. So we'll see if they do that. Defensively, they're gonna be decent, even though they still a little nicked up on that side of the ball. But defensively, they'd be all right. But offensively, I think they're gonna be up and down because of no run game. So let's look at their schedule. They start this year at Cleveland. Um, that's a toss up to me. I think Cleveland defense um, might slow the Cowboys down, and then being on the road, we'll see. The week 2 versus New Orleans, that should be a win to me. Then at home for the Ravens, week 3. Week 4 at the Giants. Week 5 at Pittsburgh. Two straight road games. Then they come home for the Detroit Lions. Then they go on a bye for Week 7. Um, but then their schedule pretty much get really tough. At San Francisco, at Atlanta. Everybody high on Atlanta this year. I like Atlanta, but I don't think I'm as high on them as some people think they are. Um, Philadelphia and Houston, two straight home games. Then at the Commanders, then at the Giants, versus the Giants. They come home for the Giants in Cincinnati. Then they go on the road to Carolina. Then against the Bucks, Tampa Bay, at home, and then at Philly, which will be probably a huge game. And then they finish the season against the Washington Commanders. So, but at that middle part of the schedule, um, it's going to be tough. Pretty much after the first two games. Well, after I guess at the Pittsburgh game, you got Detroit, you got San Fran, Atlanta, then Philly, Houston, and then like I said, by this time Washington's gonna be really good. So I think that part of the schedule, the school we're gonna see what Dallas is made of after week 3, after week 4, excuse me. So I think that's where they're gonna struggle. I think that part of the schedule will keep them out. I think they're gonna just miss the playoffs this year. And my division winner in the East, I got the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles made a lot of changes. They get Saquon, which is nuts that the Giants would let him walk the way they let him walk. He walks right to Philadelphia. Also, Jalen Hurts, also a lot of pressure on him this year as well. It's a lot of pressure on Dak, too. Pretty much every quarterback in this division other than Jalen Daniels. So that's why I think Washington might can slide in the back door. But I still don't got to be better than Dallas this year. But the Eagles, like I said, a lot of changes. Hurts got to step up this year. They got a special game this week. They in Brazil tomorrow night. First Friday they call it in the NFL. Like I said, I think this year I think it's a game on every day of the week. I think it's a Wednesday game later on this year. They play on Thursday nights. Friday, of course, tomorrow that's a game. Saturdays they play on Saturdays at the end of the year, and then of course Sunday the main day and Monday night. So I think every day of the year, every day of the week, this season is going to be at least a game played on that day. So um, NFL trying to take over that. I got games on Christmas. Probably talk about that later. But yeah, so um, but Philly. Like I said, they in Brazil against the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers is an up and coming team. Um, but let's take a look at their schedule. Let's see, where are the Eagles? Oh, there they go. All right. I just mentioned they they in Brazil against Green Bay tomorrow night. Then they get Atlanta at home, a real home game. Actually, that's a Monday night game against the Falcons. Then at New Orleans, at Tampa. Then they get their bye early. They get their bye in week 5. Then they play Cleveland at home. Then they get 2 straight road games at the Giants, at the Cincinnati Bengals. Then they come home for Jacksonville. Then back on the road to Dallas. Then home for the Washington Commanders. That's a Thursday night game. LA Rams Sunday night at Baltimore. At versus Carolina versus Pittsburgh. So they got 2 straight home games. Then at Washington. Then it's Dallas and the New York Giants to finish the season. So Eagles, like I said, they don't have a first place schedule, so I think that helps them. But they got some tough games on there. Of course, they go against everybody in the East go against the North this year in the AFC. So of course, this is gonna be tough games. Then in the division, but other than that, the LA Rams maybe the toughest game on the schedule. In this Green Bay game, but they got a pretty favorable schedule. So I think the Eagles um, uh, just going to bounce back this year. We see the offenses, like I said, we're going to see, especially tomorrow night, how they run that offense. Like I said, I think they should definitely be a read option offense with the talents of Jalen Hurts and how he play football. Now with Saquon Black there. Then you got the explosive guys on the outside, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and then they just picked up the receiver. I think he was from Washington Commanders to be in the slot receiver. So they got a deep receiving core. Um, so I see the Eagles bouncing back and winning this division this year. So to recap the East, we got the Giants finishing last. We got the Commanders finishing third. The Dallas Cowboys finishing second, and the Eagles will be my only playoff team coming out this division this year, and they will win the division. Okay, let's move on to the NFC North. NFC North now all of a sudden became a tough division. The Bears, of course, with their big splash, first overall pick, Caleb Williams, and how he lit up the preseason. So, and the Bears got a lot of weapons. So, Bears should be a contending team. The Packers, you see what they did last year, near the end of the season. A lot of people forget them to go to the Super Bowl. Now, I ain't that high on the Packers, but I think they're gonna improve from this year. But I really like the Detroit Lions. The Lions took another step forward last year, and I think they're going to take a big step forward this year. You'll see what I mean later on in the show. But let's start with the predictions there. Let's go with the fourth place team finishing last, the Minnesota Vikings. Unfortunately, lost their rookie quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. Probably was going to start, possibly. I think they probably still would have started Sam Darnold to start the season, but now it's his job now. Um, but they have, like I said, they have weapons on the outside. Justin Jefferson should be back healthy. You got Jordan Addison. I like him. He flashed last year. Um, so I mean, they got skills players on the outside. And Darnold, I mean, yeah, he haven't had a great career, but he's serviceable. So I think Minnesota would be a little feisty team to deal with every week as well. Let's take a look at their schedule. They have the New York Giants. That could be a win for them. The way that I told you, the Giants are going to struggle this year. Then they at San Fran, at Houston. I mean, home for San Fran, home for Houston. Excuse me. At Green Bay. They got a London game. They play the New York Jets. That's week 5, and then they want to buy. They get an early buy by week 6. Then at home for Detroit. Then they go to LA for the Rams. Then they home for the Colts. Then they on the road 2 straight in the South, AFC South at Jacksonville, at Tennessee. Then they go to the road against the Chicago Bears. So they got 3 straight road games there, and that's part of the schedule. Then they come home for 3 in a row: Arizona, Atlanta, and the Bears again. Then they go to Seattle. Then they come back home from Green Bay, and then they finish the season against the Detroit Lions. But I just think Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold. I don't think he's going to be able to overcome this team. But this team, like I said, they got good pieces. McCarthy, which I think he's going to be okay quarterback in the NFL. He comes back. But like I said, Minnesota's going to be somewhat competitive this year because Sam Darnold is a veteran. I think he'll be able to get the ball out of his hands, get him to them playmakers. And you might see Minnesota win some games you don't think they're supposed to win. I don't think they're going to be a horrible last place team, but I just think in this division and just the situation, I think they is going to finish last. So I got Minnesota finishes in the basement. Third place, this is when it's starting to get a little tricky because I got the Bears, but like I said, I feel the Bears. I mean, a lot of people are saying it, but I feel it too. I just think this could be. It could be. I think they're a year away, but I think it could be this year. It could be some situation where they sneak into the playoffs. I can see it possibly happening if Caleb Williams be who we think he's going to be, which he has shown that he's not going to be. With all the playmakers they have, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. Defensively, they're going to be better. This is a very trendy team, a team to keep an eye out for. I think they're going to have a lot of eyeballs on them as well because of Williams, the number 1 pick. I like the Bears this year. I don't have them making the playoffs officially, but it wouldn't shock me if they backed in there and have a good season. So I got the Bears finishing third. Let's take a look at their schedule real quick. They start the season with Tennessee. That's a good start. Possible win there. Then get a tough look up ones at Houston, at Indianapolis. The Colts, like I said, I'm gonna talk about the Colts when we get to the AFC, but the Colts is a team I think This is a little bit very interesting. Though I think they could be very good or very bad. Then the Rams, Carolina, two home games in a row. Then they go to London this year against Jacksonville. Jaguars seem like they go to London every year, so I think that's why they have advantage. It's like a home game to them. They go every year, no matter what. So we'll see if the Bears can handle that. Then they get their bye in week 7. Then two straight road games at Washington, at Arizona. Then they come home for 3 in a row: New England, um, Green Bay, and Minnesota. Then they got 3 straight road games at Detroit, at San Francisco, then division game at Minnesota. Then they come back home for Detroit and Seattle, and then they finish in Green Bay the final week of the season. Got a couple of let's see. Um, yeah, the London game, of course, that's a nationally televised game. They got Sunday night game Houston at week 2. That's Sunday night. Um, then they got a Monday night game at Minnesota in December, and then they got the Thursday night game against Seattle, um, uh, week 17. So got a couple of nationally televised games, which you would expect with the number 1 pick. The Bears, like I said, the Bears wouldn't shock me. Shout out to my man Caper Crusader. Um, Thank you for watching, bro. Also, thank you for commenting. I've been putting up posts, so check out my community wall. He's a big Bears fan, a Chicago fan, period. And I told him, and like I said, I don't have them making the playoffs, but I think they could be a contender to get in there. Well, I would be shocked if they backed in the postseason. They got a talented team, like I said, and hopefully they keep protecting the young kid Williams. I think if not this year, definitely next year, I think they're gonna take a step forward. So we'll see. Okay, so second place I got the Green Bay Packers. Of course, the Packers had an interesting season last year. Pretty much turned it around, which you expect. You know, your rookie quarterback. Well, Jordan Love ain't a rookie, but his first time starting, so he was up and down at first, and then he just tore it up the last like 8, 9 weeks of the season. Packers got in the playoffs, won a playoff game as they destroyed the Cowboys, and then they had to go against the Niners, and it just wasn't good enough in that game. But a lot of people think they're going to take another step forward. They get Josh Jacobs in the backfield. Um, Jordan Love is going to be a little bit better. They got the young receiving core. This is going to be another good team to watch. That's why this division is going to start getting interesting. Um, Probably this year. We'll see how they beat up on each other. But let's look at the Packers schedule real quick. Let's see. Where's Green Bay Packers? Packers. There we go, right there. All right, I mentioned they play tomorrow night in Brazil against the Eagles. That's gonna be a tough one for them. And they come home next week for Indy. Then they at Tennessee. Then they got the Vikings at home. Then they go to LA and face the Rams. They got Arizona, Houston back to back at home, at Jacksonville, and then they come home for Detroit before they buy at week 10. They buy us in week 10 this year. Then they at Chicago. Then they home for San Fran, home for Miami. Um, then at Detroit, at Seattle. Then they come home for New Orleans. Then they go to Minnesota, and then they finish the season against the Bears at home. So not a hard schedule, not a tough schedule. A couple of hard ones on there, but you know should be good enough to maybe to make the postseason. I think they will be one of my wild cards this year. Um, but let's see if you always got to be careful. Was that Jordan Love run a fluke, or is he really the real deal? I think he's the real deal. A lot of people think he's the real deal. Like I said, I see some procrastinators picking them to make the Super Bowl. I ain't going that far, but they should be a good team and be a contender in the NFC. So we'll see. So I got Green Bay finishing second. So that means the division winner would be the Detroit Lions once again. I'm even higher on the Lions this year than I was last year. I think their experience getting to the NFC Championship game is going to help them this year. Jared Goff. Every time I gotta apologize to Jared Goff because I just thought he was finished as far as his career. I just think I thought once he went to Detroit, but he's proven me wrong, and I know a lot of people wrong. I know I wasn't the only one thinking that it was Sean McVay helping his career, but he's played well. I think he'd be in the MVP conversation. Excuse me. I think the Lions are going to be a true contender, not just for the NFC, but probably for a championship. Um, I got the Lions winning this division. Um, Coach Campbell, he's a great coach. I think he's going to push the Lions more forward this year. So I like Detroit to win this division. Let's go through their schedule. Um, they should have a tough schedule, but we'll see. Where the Detroit Lions at? Right here. Okay. All right. Uh, Sunday night football. Start the season against the Rams. Um, Matthew Stafford comes back. That should be an emotional game for him. Um, then got Tap at home the next week. Then at Arizona. Then Seattle, week 4. That's a Monday night game. Got an early bye this year. Week 5 for Detroit. They stay bye. Then they at Dallas, at Minnesota. Come home for Tennessee. Then they got Green Bay and Houston. That should be a tough stretch. At on the road. Then they come home for Jacksonville. Then they back on the road for Indy. Then they got the Bears and the Packers back-to-back weeks at home. Then they get Buffalo at home as well. Then they at Chicago, at San Francisco. That's Monday night. And then they end the season with the Vikings at home. So, um, like I said, not a real tough schedule, even though it's a first place schedule. I think the Lions are going to be right there again, competing in the NFC. So, recap the North. We got Minnesota finishing last, got Chicago third, Green Bay second, and I think the Lions will win this division again. I got Green Bay making it playoffs, and of course Detroit going to make the playoffs as they win the division. So that's the North in the NFC. All right, NFC South. This division is very interesting as well. Um, I think it's really a two-team division as well. Um, and the other two teams, I'm not sure of. As we start with the Carolina Panthers, I think that's obvious that they're going to finish last in this division. I don't want to say obvious because I'm not real high on the Saints either. But we'll see. Carolina, I guess you could call it rebuilding. Bryce Young, um, I think it's pressure on him a little bit unfortunately, because the other young quarterbacks are playing well. C.J. Stroud, which is key comparable to because they came out the same time. What Jordan Love is doing. Caleb Williams, like he's about to send, even though these teams are probably built better than Carolina, but still, all these young guys. Brock Purdy with San Francisco, even though, like I said, San Francisco probably built better. Um, Anthony Richardson with Indianapolis, being compared to all these young guys, so it's probably unfair, but that's just the way it is. So hopefully he can at least improve. I think as long as you see some improvement, if you're a Panthers fan, I think you just got to go with that. I don't see a path that can even make the playoff. I would be shocked if they had a playoff type year. But let's look at their schedule anyway. Let's see, they should be up the top. Yeah. Um, Division that started off at New Orleans this Sunday. Then they come back home for the LA Chargers. Then back on the road with the Las Vegas Raiders. Then Cincinnati at home, at Chicago. Like I said, that's gonna be a big. I think that's a big game for them this year, because you'll be compared to Williams as well. Um, at home for Atlanta. Then at Washington, at Denver, another young guy, Bo Nix, um, versus back home for the Saints. Um, and then they got a Germany game against the Giants. Um, and then they go get their bye in week 11, so they buys more near the end of the season. Then they home for Kansas City, home for Tampa, then at Philly, then back home for Dallas and Arizona, and then at Tampa, and then at the Falcons to end the year. So, couple of winnable games. I say the Giants game may be winnable. Um, and maybe they win a division game. Like I only see about four. I say 4 wins maybe for the Panthers this year, unfortunately. But if Bryce Young still plays kind of well, I think as a Panthers fan, you gotta just be happy with that. But I got this team finishing last in the South. The New Orleans Saints. I tried to believe in this team, but I just don't have faith in him anymore. I like Derek Carr. I still think he's a decent quarterback. But the Saints, they just like I said, they just seem like they don't know what they're doing. I think in the front office. Um, I think Michael Thomas. I don't know how they treated Michael Thomas the way they treated him. I think they should have tried to rectify, even though he's probably not in his prime anymore. But he was a great receiver and one of the faces of this team. Um, Cab Jordan still there. I still think the defense is decent. That's why I think the Saints can still win some games. But unless Derek improves, Alvin Kamara, we don't know what's going to be up with him. Is he going to play, or what's going on with Alvin Kamara? So I just think they got too many issues, and I think it's going to carry over to this season. Um, so I got the Saints finish at third. Let's look at their schedule right here. Yep, right in front of me here. Just mentioned that Carolina this week. Home for Carolina, excuse me. At Dallas. Um, Back home for the Eagles. And 2 straight road games at Atlanta, at Kansas City. Wow. The two offenses. Back home for Tampa. Home for Denver. Um, at the Chargers. At the Panthers. Then they come back home for Atlanta and Cleveland back to back. Got a late bye. Week 12 is their bye week. The Kansas City game is a Monday night game. The Denver game is a Thursday night game, by the way. Um, then home for the Rams. Then at the New York Giants. Then they get the Commanders at home. Then they at Green Bay. That's a Monday night game. Um, then they got Vegas. And then they on the road against the Buccaneers. So um, just don't feel good about this team. I just don't. Um, but I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna put it all on Derek Carr because it's more than just Derek Carr. But if he has an awesome year and a defense be what they been doing the last couple of years, they could be a pesky team. I don't dismiss them completely, but I just don't see them. They just don't like last year. I thought they was gonna win the division last year. Of course, Tampa did it. Um, I still, until it's proven otherwise, I just think the Saints are sort of in that purgatory type vibe. So I don't believe in the Saints. So I think they're going to finish third in the division. Finishing second, and I have as a playoff team the Atlanta Falcons. Some people picking the Falcons to win the division. I understand. Kirk Cousins, he is great during the regular season. I think that's going to turn their offense around. They made some key acquisitions of getting Judon. That was huge, as they Atlanta seemed like they have a pass rusher in forever. So that helps the defense. The secondary is young and good. So if Kirk Cousins do what he does, this team should be um, able to compete, and I think they will make it as a wild card. So let's take a look at their schedule. Um, of course, they get Pittsburgh this week. That's going to be an interesting game at home. Then they at Philadelphia. That's Monday night. Then they at Kansas City. That's Sunday night. Well, home for Kansas City, Sunday night. Then New Orleans and Tampa as well, home games. The Tampa Bay game is a Thursday night game. At Carolina, against the Seahawks. Then at Tampa, back home for the Cowboys. Then at New Orleans, at Denver. Then they go on a bye, which is week 12. Versus the Chargers at Minnesota, at the Vegas. So that's 2 games in a row on the road. The Vegas game is a Monday night game against the Giants, at Washington, and then they finish the season against the Carolina Panthers. So I think they win like 9, 10 games, make it the playoffs. That's what I expect from the Falcons this year. I think they improve, especially personnel wise, all over the field. I think it's going to help them be consistent. We'll see if B.J. Robinson have an awesome year. Drake London, will he be unlocked? We was really going to see Kyle Pitts' talent. So a lot of expectations. That's the only thing I'm worried about the Falcons. Can they handle these expectations? Some people is behind them. So can they handle the expectations? We definitely see about that. So I got them finishing second in the NFC South and being a playoff team. So my division winner is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just think, like I said, I'm all about, especially in football, how the vibe is, and it seems like they got a good vibe. Sort of under the radar. Baker Mayfield finally found a home. They gave him a contract extension, I think, well deserved. Buccaneers played very well in the playoffs last year. Just ran into the Lions and lost. Um, um, Mike Evans, they made sure they signed him as well. Very underrated receiver. Um, Chris Godwin, whatever. They got a decent offense. Defensively, they flash, you know. So you worried about them on the defensive side of the ball. But I think Baker, with the experience, that's why I got them winning against them. I think it's going to be tight, though. I think they probably barely win the division. It might come down to the final weeks of the season. But I think Tampa will pull it off, and I think they will win the NFC South. So let's look at their schedule. They start the year with Washington at home. Then they get at Detroit, rematch for last year's playoff game. Then they got Denver and Philly at home back-to-back weeks. Then they at Atlanta, that's a Thursday night game. At New Orleans the next week. Then Monday night, play the Baltimore Ravens. Then home for Atlanta as well. Then they at Kansas City, of course, going to be tough. Then against San Francisco, so both of the Super Bowl teams back to back. But then they get their bye in week 11. Then at the Giants, at Carolina, schedule start getting a little soft versus Vegas, at the Chargers, at Dallas, and then they finish the season with Carolina and New Orleans, both home games to end the year. So I think the Buccaneers are set up to win this division once again. It might come down to the final weeks, but I just think they slightly better than Atlanta still. And I'm still not sure about Cousins and his health, so I'm giving Tampa the nod to win this division. So to recap this South, we got Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta finishes second. Then we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this division once again. All right, so let's go to the NFC West. If we finish up the NFC, this was a tough one. Because I really like the Cardinals. I got them finishing last, but I think their future is also bright. I like Kyler Murray. You can say what you would about the guy, but he's a good athletic quarterback. Can make all the throws on the run. I just like the way he plays. You get Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be an All-Pro one day, maybe this year. We'll see. I think the Cardinals going to be a fun team to watch, but I just think this division is so tough. I thought about putting them ahead of Seattle because I got Seattle finishing third, but I think Seattle is just a little bit more, just a little better, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And now with Mike Macdonald as coach, I think they'd be a defensive-minded team. I think Geno Smith is going to have another decent year. So I got the Cardinals finishing fourth in the division. Let's go through their schedule real quick. Then we'll move on to Seattle. At Buffalo, that'll be a tough game to start the season this week. Versus the Rams, versus Detroit at home, versus Washington at home. So 3 straight home games after that road game in Buffalo. Then a tough stretch here at San Francisco, at Green Bay. Then they home for the LA Chargers, at Miami. Then they home for the Bears, home for the Jets. Then they get a week 11 bye. Then at Seattle, at Minnesota, back to back. Then Seattle again at home, and New England at home. Then they at Carolina, at the LA Rams, and they finish the season against the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. So not a bad schedule, but I just think everybody is just better right now. But I think the Cardinals will be back in the fold. I think by next year as well. I think the Cardinals and the Chicago Bears will be 2 teams next year, and maybe even the Commanders that'll be sort of NFC contenders next year. But this year, everybody else is just in front of them right now, and I think they just got to build their team a little bit more. But I like those three teams going forward. But I got them finishing last this year. Seattle Seahawks. I just mentioned them. They third in the division. Um, like I said, I believe in Geno Smith. DK Metcalf is one of my favorite players in the NFL to watch. Just a strong, muscular receiver. Can make the other catches in the world. So they fun to watch just for him alone. Um, but I just think new head coach, just never know how that goes. Um, but like I said, I think he's gonna try to have them more defensive minded. Got a talented backfield as well. Um, so Seattle has something to bring to the table. But I got to finish at third of the division. Let's look at their schedule real quick as they face the Denver Broncos this week. Now imagine if Russell Wilson was still there. I think that's probably why they sort of scheduled this game. But of course, he's not in Denver anymore. Um, so you won't see the reunion, at least not through the Seahawks. I mean, not through the Broncos. At New England in week 2. Then back home from Miami. At Detroit. Then you get the Giants and the 49ers back-to-back weeks at home. At Atlanta. Then back home again for 2 straight, Buffalo and the LA Rams. So they got a kind of a tough schedule. That part of the schedule is kind of tough. Um, then they go on the bye. Then they at the 49ers when they come off the bye. Home for Arizona. Then back-to-back weeks at the Jets, then at Arizona. Then 2 home games, Green Bay, Minnesota, back-to-back. And then they end the season with the Bears and the Rams both on the road. So they got a pretty tough schedule. I think that's part of the reason why I think they might fall short of a playoff berth. Um, so I got the Seahawks finishing third. Finishing second, the LA Rams. The LA Rams was somewhat of a surprise last year. There was a lot of expectations. Sean McVay was flirting with retiring, and all this other stuff was going on last year. Matthew Stafford was in and out the lineup. Cooper Kupp went down, but then the kid Pakua, I think I'm pronouncing this right, wide receiver, he's amazing. Now Kupp is healthy, so you got both of those guys. With Matthew Stafford, he can throw the football. Um, uh, they got, I think they still got Cam Akers in the backfield, so they got a decent team of offense. Defense, of course, you got to mention that Aaron Donald retired. Um, so that's a big hole to fill, literally. That guy, he's probably one of the most best defensive players I ever seen. He retires, so we'll see how the defense looks this year. But they got talent there, so we'll see what happens there. But this team, uh, definitely proved a lot of people wrong last year, and I think they're going to continue that this year. Sean McVay is an excellent coach, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think he'll be able to get those guys the ball again, and the Rams are going to be something to deal with. Let's look at their schedule. Okay, got it here. Of course, this week, Sunday Night Football at Detroit. Matthew Stafford goes back home. At Arizona. Then home opener against the 49ers. Then at Chicago. Then back home for Green Bay. Got an early bye. They bye is week 6. Home for Vegas. Home for the Minnesota Vikings. Then they go to Seattle. Then they come back home from Miami. Then they at New England. Then back home again against the Eagles. Then back on the road against the Saints. Then they come back home against Buffalo. So they alternate home, away for a while. Then at San Francisco. Then they finally get a road game again at the Jets. Then they finish the season with 2 division games at home against Arizona and Seattle. But a lot of back and forth, home and away, home and away. But I think that's probably how you rather have it instead of having long sugar. If you have 2 home games or 3 home games in a row, you're going to have a time where you got to do 3 straight road games. So like I said, not a bad schedule. The Rams, I do have them making the playoffs. I think they're gonna have a good year. I think they're gonna improve. I think if everybody stay, if Matthews stay healthy, I think the Rams will be decent. I think they finish second in this division and make the playoffs. So that means the Niners once again will win this division. They got everybody signed. They got Trick Williams signed. They got Brandon Ayuk signed. Purdy probably, if he have another good year, he'll probably get signed um, after the season this year. Niners gonna be right there again. They're just too deep on both sides of the ball, defense, offense. Um, like I said, the only question mark is Purdy. Is this Purdy? Is this the real Purdy? Is he, going to improve or is he going to get worse? I think that's the only question you have for the Niners. And if everybody stay healthy, if that they win the division again, probably win 12, 13 games again. Same old Niners. Um, my thing is, you see in this league all the time, a team keep getting there, getting close, get close. They lost two Super Bowls. They've been to the NFC Championship. Um, um, is it going to be mentally draining? And we're going to see this year. We're going to see around the game Monday Night Football against the Jets. I think they're at home for that game, so we're going to see it early with this San Francisco 49er team. So let's look at the rest of their schedule. Just missing the Jets. Monday Night Football at home. Then they at Minnesota, at the Rams. Then they come home for the Patriots and the Cardinals. At Seattle. Then Super Bowl rematch against the Chiefs. The Seattle game is a Thursday night game, by the way. Then they home for Dallas. That's a Sunday night game. Then they get their bye in week 9. Then they at Tampa, at Seattle. Excuse me, home for Seattle, at Green Bay, at Buffalo. That's a little bit of a tough stretch there. Against the Bears, at the Rams, at home. Then at Miami. That should be a fun game. Niners go to Miami. Then they against the Lions, NFC Championship rematch, Monday Night Football. Then at Arizona to finish the season. So Niners, like I said, they win 12, 13 games and win this division again. Brock Purdy, I guess people have had their eyes on him. Some people think this is the real him. Some people think he might regress. I think that's the only biggest question now that Ayuk is signed, if Trick Williams is signed. That's the only big question now you have about the Niners. So I expect them to be right there once again competing for a championship. So that's the NFC. The whole NFC is done now. Look back at the West. Arizona finishing in the basement. Seattle finishing third. Rams finishing second. And the Niners winning the division. I got the Rams making the playoffs. And I got the Niners, of course, as a playoff team because they is the division winner. All right. We already been 40 minutes in. So, yeah, it'll be a long show. We're going to do the whole AFC real quick. And then we'll look at the playoff teams and the who I think will win the MVP and everything. And I thank you guys so much for joining us. Of course, I'm gonna set up. I'm gonna put it on my social media. Once the video is done, I'm gonna post it on social media to remind people to come watch. You can watch the replay. We had few people peeking it out, but nobody stayed for that long. Shout out to my boy B. I know it's already nighttime for him, so he probably in the bed. But I tried to do an earlier show. I always try to do an early show, but like I said, I had to work all this week. Now next week I might do an early show, probably Wednesday. We'll look back at week 1 and talk about other sports next week. So join me next Wednesday. That'll be the next show, episode 272 next week. All right. We're going to go to the AFC. We're going to start in the AFC East. Let me take a drink of water. Thank you. A little long when they're talking, right? All right, let's get through the AFC and then we'll be almost done. We're going to start in the AFC East. Like I said, the AFC was tough. The East, the bottom team wasn't hard to pick. The New England Patriots, they decided to start Jacoby Brissett over Drake May. I think that's a good idea. I don't think they should throw Drake May out there yet. This team, pretty much is a new regime. No Bill Belichick, no Tom Brady. A lot of the veterans are gone. Like I said, they traded Judon away, so I think they're trying to clean house, start from scratch. Jared Mayo, I think, we'll see, but I think he's going to be a good coach. But Drake may look decent in the preseason. So maybe it'll translate. He might play this year if Jacoby struggles really, really bad. But I don't think it's no point in throwing him out there right now. You're not going to, you're not going nowhere this year. That's just the reality. I got the Patriots finishing last. Let's look at their schedule. Um, where are they? Right in my face. Okay. At Cincinnati this week. That'll be a tough game for them to start the season. Then they home for Seattle. Then at the New York Jets, at the San Francisco 49ers. Then home for Miami, home for Houston. Then they play the Jaguars in London. So the Jaguars got 2 games in London. I guess we'll find out because it just say it on their schedule. Um, versus the New York Jets at home. Then at Tennessee, at Chicago. Chicago, circle that one because that'll be maybe Drake may be playing by then. Um, come back home for the LA Rams. Then at Miami. Then home for Indianapolis. Then they get a bye. They got a late bye all the way to week 14. Wait for their bye this year. Then at Arizona, at Buffalo. Then they finish the season with 2 home games. LA Chargers and the Buffalo Bills. Of course, a division game. So, like I said, they're going to have a up and down year. But just like I said about Carolina, even though Bryce Young going to start, I think Drake May going to eventually start. But if you see the flashes in him that he could play well, then I think as a Patriots fan, you just got to rely on that. But the Patriots fans, of course, are spoiled. You used to winning all the time with Tom. 6 championships, always being in the playoffs. But those days are over, at least for now. They got to rebuild, and I think they've proven that by getting rid of a lot of the veterans and going young. So, just watch and see. Like I said, if you're a fan, just watch and see if Drake May plays and improves, and just the team overall, see how they be a coach. Just pay attention to the details. Um, but I think the Patriots going to definitely finish last in this division. Now this is where it gets hard because the Jets are a decent team, Miami and the Buffalo Bills. But I went with the Jets third because it's not just because of Aaron, but I'm not sure. He is 40 years old. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt again. Knock on wood. Um, but I think he's motivated, so that's why I think the Jets are going to have a decent year. And they got talent all over the place, defense, offense. So I just think they're in a tough division and a tough AFC. But I still had them making the playoffs, so that means I have 3 teams from the East making the playoffs. So I got the Jets sneaking in the playoffs. Um, and probably win about I think 10 games maybe it'd be enough. I think they could do it. But we're gonna see if Aaron Rodgers comes back and play like if he plays anything like he used to play. The Jets are going to be the AFC is loaded. So I think really if you get in the playoffs, even if you're a 1 seed or 2 seed, I don't think the seeds. I mean, of course they matter because you're home or away, but I think from any team in the AFC, if you make it, they can make it to the Super Bowl. I believe that. I believe that for the Jets as well. Maybe some days got to go your way, but I do have the Jets making the playoffs, but I only had them finishing third in this division. And like I said, it got harder because it's like, all right, you go with Miami. My heart was saying Miami, but my mind says Buffalo. So I got Buffalo finishing first in the East. I got Miami finishing second. Let's look at the Jets schedule. I'm sorry, I didn't need to check out the Jets schedule. Let's go through their schedule real quick. I'm sorry about that. Then we'll move on and talk about the Miami Dolphins. Of course, at the Niners Monday night, we know that. At Tennessee, then New England and Denver, then at Minnesota is a London game. The New England game is a Thursday night game. Then they home for Buffalo, then at Pittsburgh, at New England. The Pittsburgh game is Sunday night. Home against the Houston Texans. That's a Thursday night game as well. Got a lot of national televised games. Then at Arizona, then home for Indy. That's a Sunday night game as well. and they get their bye. I think by that time, like the first part of that schedule, like the New England, Denver, Minnesota, like they to me they must wins because the schedule just then you get that hard part with Houston and you know and San Fran in between. But I think the early part of the schedule is sort of favorable. Week 12 to bye, then they got Seattle at home, then at Miami, then at Jacksonville, then home for the Rams, then at Buffalo, and then home for Miami. So really, it's about winning your division games and then getting these games like Denver, Tennessee. Don't fall short of that. Minnesota, like they should win. Well they'd be favored and they should win all those games. That 4 game stretch in Tennessee, New England, never. Yeah, so they have to win those games. Um, if they go to continue. If they stumble in that part of the schedule, then that's what I mean. Not saying their season will be over, but you probably would have less confidence in the Jets if they can't win those 4 games. So that's cool. I think that's going to be important. The San Francisco game, if they could get that one, that'd be huge. If they can, they could probably possibly start 5-0, which I think some people start believing that. So we'll see. The Jets going to be under a microscope this year, but I still had them making the playoffs. Like I said, they had them making the playoffs. And finishing third in the division. Now let's go to the Miami Dolphins. Um, like I said, I thought about putting them first over Buffalo, but then I thought about last year, and I'm not sure if the Dolphins still ain't ready yet. They had a chance to win the division. They folded at the end, and then of course had to play the Chiefs in the playoffs and lost. Um, all the uh, the statistics about them can win. Well, it's pretty much tied to Tua as well. Can win in cold weather, don't play well against above 500 teams. So all that's if Miami going to take a next step, both of those have to change this year. I'm not sure if it's going to change, but I think they'll win. Well, we're going to look at their schedule in a second. I think they'll hopefully win. Well, they're going to have to because the division is going to be tough. But we'll see what the opponents they have outside of the division. Tua got his money. I ain't had no problem with that. Who else would you want to give it to? Um, and like I said, now the stuff that came out about Coach Flores and Tua, um, how Mike McDaniel was pretty much believe in him. That makes a difference. It does make a difference. Um, so hopefully it makes a difference. It makes him play even better and start winning these big games that they got to win. If so, they could finish first, but until I see it, I had to give the Bills the nod. So that I still had them making the playoffs, but I gave the Bills the nod for the division. So now let's look at the schedule now. Miami Dolphins. Let's see. Where are y'all? Right here. They start the season at home against the Jags. Then Thursday night against Buffalo. Then at Seattle. Then home for Tennessee. Monday night. Early Monday night. It must be 2 games Monday night. That Monday. Then at New England. Then they get a bye. They get an early bye. Week 6. And then at Indianapolis. Home for Arizona. Then 2 road games at Buffalo at the LA Rams. Then they got Vegas and New England at home. Then they go to Green Bay. Then they home for the Jets. At Houston. That'd be a big game. Get the Niners at home. Then at Cleveland at the New York Jets. So pretty up and down schedule. They're gonna have to, like I said, they're gonna have to win some of these big games. But their schedule starting off is not. If you take out the Buffalo game, they first half of the schedule was pretty soft too. It gets harder at the end. So Miami gonna have to get off to a fast start as well, and hopefully nobody gets hurt and they don't stumble in the beginning of their schedule. So I got the Dolphins for this a second. I got the Bills winning the division again. I know they lost a lot of personnel, but I think this is Josh Allen year. I think he'll have a monster year. I think he's going to be in the MVP discussion as well. The Diggs situation is over. I think they can finally get past that. I think that's going to unlock Josh Allen. But we'll see, because if he struggles, I think it's going to be some people bringing that up. Like, well, now that you don't have Diggs, you still. But I think I think Buffalo is going to focus on running the football this year. I don't think Josh is going to be throwing it all over the place. Then he likes to run the ball anyway, and then he keeps it himself sometimes and run. So I think the Bills are going to be more of a running football team. but we'll see what they do on the offensive side. Um, but I got them winning this division again. Um, Coach McDermott is a good defensive coach, so I think he can fill the holes that they lost on defense as well. I got the Bills winning this division. So let's look at their schedule real quick. Um, uh, they start the season at home against the Cardinals this week, then at Miami, then back home for the Jags. Then this is a tough stretch here at Baltimore, at Houston, at the New York Jets. That's a tough stretch. The Baltimore game is Sunday night, and the Jets game is a Monday night game. The Houston game is a regular Sunday game. Um, then they go to Tennessee. No, they come home for Tennessee. Excuse me. Then at Seattle. Then back home for the Dolphins. Then at the Colts. Then back home for Kansas City. Then they get a bye. Then off the bye, you get the Niners at home. Then you at the Rams, at Detroit. That's gonna be a tough. That schedule right, that part right there. The Kansas City, then they get the bye, but then the Niners, Rams, Lions, back to back to back. That's gonna be a tough stretch. Um, then at home for two, New England and the Jets again, and then they finish the season with the Patriots. So it seemed like the theme in this division, the first start of the schedule. Well, they got a tough schedule already because they're a first place team, but the first part is a little softer. The end, that stretch with Kansas City, San Francisco, Rams, Detroit, that's gonna be tough. You probably just hope you split the four games there. At least you get a bye between it as well. So I think the Bills will be set up to win this division again. I'm still a little worried about the Dolphins. Can they win big games? Um, that's why I'm going to stick with the Bills with this division. So to recap the East, the AFC East, Patriots finishing last, got the Jets finishing third. I got them in the playoffs. I got the Dolphins finishing second. I got them in the playoffs. And the Bills win the division. Of course, you win the division, you win the playoffs. So that's the AFC East. So we got three more divisions to go. We're going to go to the North, then the South, and then the West in the AFC. And the North. And let me preface my comments by saying I'm a Ravens fan, so might be a little biased, might be a little homer when I come to some of these picks, but this is a tough division. You can pretty much have a legitimate argument for all four of these teams. I mean, but then when you do that, you just got to go with the ifs. Who got the most ifs? I guess if you have the less ifs, then that's who you go with. So to start off the North, I got the Steelers finishing last. Shout out to my man James, my New Jersey homie. I probably reach out to him today because Ravens got a game tonight. I might reach out to him. We have back and forth. Of course, he's a Steelers fan. I'm a Ravens fan, so you know how that is. But that's my bro. I love him, man. He's a good kid, doing a lot of good things for himself. So shout out to you, bro. But I got your Steelers finishing last, man. Yeah, of course it's the quarterback situation. Russ, I love Russ, and um, I think this is it for him. And I mean, if this situation don't work out, I think he's going to be the backup or out the league. I think this is pretty much his last shot to prove it. So I'm gonna go with that and say that he has no choice. He has to play decent at least. Then the Steelers defense is great. So this team can, like I said, they always finish above 500. I don't count them out. I just think this division is so tough. I went between them. I really went between them, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. Like, who would finish fourth to second. I got the Ravens finishing first, and it ain't just because I'm a Ravens. I just think we got the most solid team. But the Steelers can finish higher. They're not going to be a horrible, horrible team, but I think this is because the division is tough, and I'm not sure about Russ. I got the Steelers finishing fourth in this division. Let's look at their schedule, though, see if they got at least a favorable schedule, which they should, because I think they finished, well, they was a playoff team last year, right? That's right. They did sneak into the playoffs last year with Mason Rudolph, really, and Kenny Pickett, so... start the season in Atlanta. We already mentioned that. Then at Denver the next week. So Russ goes back to Denver. and play if he's still the starter by then, which he should be after 2 weeks. Um, at the home for the Chargers, at Indianapolis, um, then against Dallas, that's a Sunday night game. At Vegas, then at the New York Jets, another Sunday night game. Then at the Giants, that's a Monday night game. I mean, it's home for the Giants. Excuse me. Then they get the bye. Then it's at Washington, home against the Ravens. Then two straight home games, really four straight division games. Two road games, Cleveland, Cincinnati. Then they go to Cleveland. Then at Philadelphia. Then at the Ravens. Um, and then at home for the Chiefs and home for the Cincinnati Bengals. This Kansas City game is a Christmas game. It's on Netflix, which is crazy. Everybody getting into the NFL. So Netflix got Christmas games this year. Um, like I said, the Steelers. It's going to depend on Russ. I mean, I don't want to put it all on him, but if he plays well, they they had the potential to be a playoff team. Maybe win this division somehow, but um, uh, I just don't. I don't see it. I just don't. I can't put them past Cleveland or Cincinnati or the Ravens right now. So I got the Steelers finishing last in the division. Cleveland Browns got them finished at third. I think they missed it. By the way, I don't got Pittsburgh making the playoffs. I don't got Cleveland making the playoffs. I think Cleveland gonna just miss out on the playoffs. Same, almost same situation. Deshaun Watson. Um, Everything is on his shoulders this year. Cleveland made the playoffs with basically Joe Flacco. Um, Miles Garrett, to me, one of the best defensive players of the year in this league. I think now that Aaron Donald's gone, I think he's probably the best defensive lineman, in my opinion, in the NFL. TJ Watt is up there as well. I didn't mention him when I talked about the Steelers, but um, it's between them two guys. And look, they're in the same division, so. Um, but just like I said about Rush, I think Deshaun, he had to have the stuff off the field. I ain't gonna get into all that. Um, got hurt again last year, so he really ain't played football in 2 years. So you gotta let him shake off the rust. Um, so we'll see how he plays, but he has to play well. They have decent weapons. Njoku at tight end. Um, Nick Chubb gonna be out the first 4 weeks, so they gotta go do it without Chubb. But once he come back, that'll stabilize the running game. Um, yeah, I like the Browns, but I just think being in this tough AFC, I just think in this division, I just think only see them finish at third. Let's look at their schedule, see what kind of schedule they have. Of course, against the Cowboys week 1 at home, at Jacksonville, against the Giants at home, then 3 straight road games: Vegas, Washington, and Philly. Then they come back home for 3: Cincinnati, Baltimore, LA Chargers. Week 10 is they bye at New Orleans after the bye. Um, Against the Steelers, that's a Thursday night game. At Denver, that's a Monday night game. So 2 um, nationally televised games in a row. Then at the Steelers again. At Cincinnati, then against Miami, that's a Sunday night game at home, and then they finish the season in Baltimore to face the Baltimore Ravens. So pretty tough schedule, but like I said, Cleveland, just like I feel about any of these teams in this division, you wouldn't be surprised if they're a playoff team. But somebody got to miss the playoffs, right? So I just don't think they gonna backdoor it like they did last year. I think they'll fall short, and I got them finishing third. Cincinnati Bengals, like I said, it was hard. Bengals is a hard team to figure out as well. Jamar Chase is practicing, but we'll see how he plays this year. Um, Tyler Boyd definitely is probably. I mean, yeah, Tyler Boyd's probably gone for sure. Um, I think this is Cincinnati. I think somebody put it pretty goodly. Like this is an all-in year for the Bengals because this whole team might be broken up. Joe Mixon is gone. I think that hurts because I think he's not just because of his play. I think the locker room. But Joe Burrow, I believe in Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I think can elevate his teammates. So I'm a bet on that, and I think they finished second in the division. He's coming off an injury. I think he's motivated, um, and I like this team. Sneakily good on defense as well. Um, Um, so that's why I had to pick them over Cleveland and Pittsburgh because they got the better quarterback. It's just that simple. They Lawrenceburg don't get hurt. The Bengals will be fine. I got them finishing second in the division. Let's take a look at the schedule real quick. Um, Against New England at home this week. Then they at Kansas City. That'll be a huge game. Against the Commanders at home. That's a Monday night game. Um, at Carolina, home for the Ravens. At the Giants, at Cleveland. The Giants game is a Sunday night game. Against the Eagles and Vegas at home, back to back. Then at Baltimore, that's a Thursday night game. At the LA Chargers, then they go on a bye, week 12. Pittsburgh at home, at Dallas, that's a Monday night game. At Tennessee, then back home for Cleveland and Denver, and then they finish the season in Pittsburgh. So that's their schedule this year. I think the Bengals, like I said, Joe Burrow's gonna be back. I think he got some motivation, um, but I still got them finishing second in the division. I do have them as a playoff team, though. I do have them as a playoff team, um, but I think they finished second in the North. So that means the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, I'm a Ravens fan. I'm gonna say it again, but I just think uh, we just got the better team. I think Lamar is going to come back and have a great year. The Derrick Henry signing is not. I make it's not going to. Well, I guess I was sort of contradicting myself because I said it's not going to take us over the top, but I explain that later on when we get into the playoffs. Um, I was just telling our fans we need to calm. They ain't win us the Super Bowl yet, but it is a big signing. If he's not past his prime, that's the only thing I'm afraid of. He got a little wear and tear on his tires. So could he play well? I think the Ravens going to run the ball more this year with their offense. Uh, and like I said, I think as far as the MVP for Lamar, though, I think now he's in that class with because his playoff shortcomings, unless he have a monster, unless he have a monster year, I think the voters is gonna swell away from him now because just like at the NBA, like um, once you could win MVP, but then once if you don't win, they sort of vote elsewhere. So I think Lamar to me probably is in that class now. We'll see, but if he have a monster year again, he'll get some votes, but I don't think he'll win. I think they'll give it to someone else. But I'm gonna give you my prediction on MVP later in the show. Um, but let's look at their schedule. Defensively, I love this team. Kyle Hamilton, probably my favorite Raven now, other than Lamar. Um, I think he's going to have a monster year. I think he's going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Um, Nate Wiggins, the corner rookie, I think he's going to have a monster year as well. I think defensively we're going to be I think we got the best defense in the division. I think that's why I also gave us the nod of winning it over Cincinnati, over anybody else. Cleveland and Pittsburgh's defenses are good, but I think ours are a little bit deeper than theirs, in my opinion. So, all right, schedule. Of course, tonight at Kansas City, I give my prediction on that before we leave. Um, Vegas at home, at Dallas um, versus Buffalo. That's a Sunday night game. At Cincinnati um, against the Commanders at home. At Tampa, that's a Monday night game. At Cleveland. Then you got Denver at home, Cincinnati at home. It's a Thursday night game. At Pittsburgh, at the Chargers, that's a Monday night game. Then you get Philly. Then they go on a bye. Then it's at the Giants. Then it's Pittsburgh at home. And then it's at Houston. That's a Christmas game on Netflix. And versus the Browns to end the season. So Ravens, just winning division games. The thing, well, of course, Kansas City, that's a tough one. Buffalo as well. Yeah, got some bumps in there, but mainly it's the division. Just win your division games and you'll be fine. I like the Ravens again this year. I think they're going to get some revenge tonight and later on in the season. I'll tell you about that in a few. As we finish the North in the AFC, Pittsburgh last, got Cleveland finishing third, Cincinnati second, the Baltimore Ravens finishing first. We are an hour and 15 minutes in. We got two more divisions to go. We're gonna do the South next, and then the West. The West is probably the easiest one to do out of all of these divisions to me. The AFC West. The rest of them, you can argue with place, but these I feel strongly like this is how this is going to go. But we're going to do the South next. Um, like I said, the North, I got Cincinnati making it, and the Ravens, of course, because the division winner, they are a playoff team. So we almost got all our playoff teams in. Um, so we're going to finish the divisions, and then I'm gonna go with my predictions for the awards, and then we'll do playoffs and who I think will make it to Super Bowl 59 and win it. So that's what we're going to do next. Hour 15 minutes in. Been talking, man. It's whew, a little time sitting in a chair, right? It's got no cushion on it, so it's kind of a hard chair. But I'm glad my phone got um a, a kickstand on it so it can stand up straight. So that's how my phone stands straight. So I got my hands free, which is good, so I can look at my notes and do whatever. But I just wanted to stand up real quick, take a little short break. Um, while we taking a break, like I said, I want to get back into the PlayStation realm. I'm gonna try to get a PS5 next month. My birthday was next month, actually almost exactly a month away. So I want to get a PlayStation 5. Don't know what game I'm gonna start with. Probably wind up starting with Man or something like that. But I want to get back into the PlayStation world, so that's something to look forward to. Um, we start doing live streams again. We coming back. I told you we coming back. We coming back with a vengeance. So thank you guys for hanging in there with me. But like I said, till then, I'll do some more sports blogs, and I will do the Nintendo shorts. Y'all love those. So thank you guys for the support. We had 309, but we was at 310, then we went back down to 309 last night. I think we still currently at 309. So like I said, the goal is 500 because once you get to 500, you start getting monetized and stuff like that. So that's my goal before the year is over with. That's my goal. So I'm gonna try to push for that. So that's what's going to come up in the next few weeks. And I'm gonna try to do one show a week, one blog a week. I might start going to two, just because it's the NFL season. So I want to kind of do just an NFL show during a week, and then have another show where we talk about like the NBA will be coming back soon as well. So yeah, so that's how I might start doing it. Maybe Saturdays. I'm thinking about. I announce it once it get official, but Saturdays that'd probably be my NFL show. You know, yeah. So probably when I think I'm gonna start doing Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's gonna start being my 2 days in the week. But I announce it once I get things more figured out. All right, let's continue so we can get on out of here. Um, South, the AFC South. Um, Tennessee finishing last. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. But they have talent. Like DeAndre Hopkins still there. They got Calvin Ridley. Um, so if Will Levis, some people like Will Levis. Will Levis have a good year. Tennessee could be sneaky a pass. I think they're just gonna be a pass. They're not gonna beat themselves. I didn't agree with Mike Tree will get fired, but I think it was a deeper thing within the organization, so they let him go. But I like him as a coach. I'm surprised he get another job. He probably will next season or once things start moving on in the season, maybe. Um, but I just can't because, like I said, I don't. I mean, it's not that I don't like Will Levis. I never really see him play a lot, but he's not better than the rest of the quarterbacks of the division. At least currently, he's not. So on that reason alone, I got to put the Titans in fourth place. Let's look at their schedule though. See what kind of schedule they have. Here we go. At Chicago, of course, the Bears are going to be one of the teams a lot of people want to watch this year. Home for the Jets, home for the Packers. Then at Miami, you got an early bye, week 5. Um, Come home for the Colts. Um, then at Buffalo, at Detroit. Then against the Patriots at home. Then at the Chargers. Then home for Minnesota. then 2 road games at Houston, at Washington. Then you got the Jags at home, the Bengals at home, then 2 more road games again, Colts and Jags, and then they finish the season at home against the Houston Texans. So that's their schedule. I think if Will Levis plays any decently, they're gonna have the talent. They got the talent on offense and defense, even though they lost Derrick Henry. But the Titans, just keep an eye on them. Just keep an eye on them. They're not gonna be a horrible last place team, but I do have them finishing last in the South. Indianapolis Colts. Now I was hitting earlier about this team. This day could go right or left. Like Anthony Richardson, I'm a fan of his because I like the Florida Gators, so I liked him when he was coming out of school. But a lot of people say he's injury prone. People say they don't like what they saw in the preseason from him. So it's making some people pause it. But like I said, the Colts got talent. Jonathan Taylor is there and back healthy. Um, the defense is young and fast. But because of the quarterback situation, again, even though Trevor Lawrence still got some things to prove himself, I just gave them I gave the Jags the nod over the Colts for second place because um, I'm not sure about Anthony Richardson. So we gonna take a look at their schedule. I don't have them making the playoffs. Let's see, Colts. Oh, right there. Okay. All right. They got Houston to start the season, then at Green Bay, then home for Chicago and Pittsburgh, then on the road for Jacksonville and Tennessee, then home for Miami, the 2 road games in between that with Houston and Minnesota after that, excuse me, then home for the Bills, then at the New York Jets, then home for the Lions, at New England. They bye late in the season, week 14. The Jets game, by the way, is Sunday night. That's the only game here I see that's nationally televised. Um, at Denver, and then against the Titans, um, then at the Giants, and then they finish the season against the Jags. So, not a rough schedule. Just like let's go. Like I said, if Richardson takes the next step this year, they'd be a team to contend with. But I had them missing the playoffs and finishing third in the South. So I already hinted the Jags. I got them finishing second. Trevor Lawrence, he got paid, but to me, he's starting to. We're gonna talk about Justin Herbert, but him and Justin Herbert, even though the ironic thing is he beat Justin Herbert in the playoff game. I just think those two, yeah, they're good. You can tell how good they are, but I think far as I just think they slightly overrated because they haven't done much. Lawrence was up and down last year. Jags was expected to take over this division, and Houston came out of nowhere, and now it's theirs. And I think it's going to be theirs again. I don't have the Jags making the playoffs either. I think they just miss out. And I think some people probably people going to start saying, Trevor Lawrence overrated. You're going to start saying some criticism. But he played for the Jags, so that sort of helps him a little bit. Nobody don't really care. I think Herbert might get more noise because he's in a LA market. But I got the Jags for this second. I got them missing the playoffs. Let's look at their schedule. At Miami to start the season. Then at home for Cleveland. Then at Buffalo, at Houston. Then they got the Colts. At Chicago, that's London. Even though I say at Chicago, so I guess they must the road team, but they gonna be home basically. 2 straight London games. They get the Bears and the Patriots back-to-back weeks in London. Like I said, they have an advantage over there. They got a fan base over there. They go over there every year, so it's tough to beat them over there. Then they come back to the States for Green Bay. Then at Philadelphia. Then they got the Vikings at home. Then at Detroit. They bye comes in week 12. at Houston. I mean, home for Houston, at Tennessee, home for the Jets, at the Vegas Raiders, home for the Titans, and then they finish the season against the Indianapolis Colts on the road. So that's the Jags schedule. I think it's like I said, this is a big year for Lawrence. Um, so I want to see how he bounced back for the Jags. Um, like I said, they're gonna be if Lawrence bounce back, they're gonna be a contender for a playoff spot. I just think they're gonna fall just short of that though. So I got winning the division, the Houston Texans. What a year they had last year. Was up and down, was up and down. Was only 10-7, but won that big playoff game against the Browns, which shocked me. I thought the Browns, because they was a little bit more experienced, would win that game. So I was wrong about that. CJ Stroud is unbelievable. I think he's only going to get better. You add Stephon Diggs. Some people say that could be a grenade, but he's still a talented receiver, so that helps. Get Joe Mixon. Like I said, I like Joe Mixon. I think in that offense he probably can sort of revive his career. Not saying it was going in the wrong direction, but he started slowing down a little bit. Defensively, they're young and fast as well. I like this football team. Um, I think they have a chance. Like I think it's gonna be between them. Well, we'll talk about the AFC playoff spots in a minute, but it's gonna depend. If they win their division games, I think they could possibly get the 1 seed. But we're gonna talk about the seedings and stuff in a few seconds, in a few minutes. So I got Houston winning this division, and CJ Stroud having a monster year, probably gonna be in the MVP conversation as well. Let's take a look at their schedule. They're at the Colts, which I just mentioned this week. Then they go against the Bears at home. That's a Sunday night game. That's going to be an excellent game. That's actually a game I'm looking forward to see. Williams against Stroud. That'll be good. At Minnesota, home for the Jags and home for the Bills. Then at New England, at Green Bay. The Buffalo game, keep an eye on. That's a revenge game for Stephon Diggs, so it's going to be a lot of talk that week. Home for the Colts, then at the Jets, home for the Lions, then at the Cowboys. The Lions game is Sunday night. The Cowboy game is Monday night. The Jets game is Thursday night. So 3 straight night games for the Texans. You can tell that you had a good year last year. Home for the Titans, at the Jags. They bye also coming week 14. At Miami, at Kansas City. Home for Miami, at Kansas City. Then home for Baltimore, Christmas Day, Netflix, as I mentioned, and at the Titans to finish the season off. Got some tough games in between there. Got some tough games, but I think if CJ Stroud is CJ Stroud, and we think he's going to be what he's going to be, Houston's going to be a contender, and they're going to win this division. I think they're going to win it kind of easily, though, because I like the Jags and the Colts, but I'm not real high on them. Like I said, I don't have them making the playoffs. And then the Titans, like I told you. So I think Houston should have a decent, I don't want to say easy, but, they're in a softer division than, let's say, the Ravens and the Bills. We got a lot, the Chiefs also, who we're about to talk about in the West, have a soft division as well. So Titans finishing fourth, Colts finishing third. We got the Jags finishing second, and then Houston is your division winner. And the only team going to the playoffs in that division. I got Jags, Colts, or Titans in the playoffs this year. All right, let's go to the West so we can go ahead and finish up at least our division, our team previews. Las Vegas Raiders finishing last in the West. Like I said, really, Gardner Minshew now the quarterback. He's decent, but we'll see what happens with him. Antonio Pierce. I think they go. Like I said, I think the Raiders now are starting to feel like they're going in the right direction. I think they need to be patient with Coach Pierce. If they do, I think they get better every year. But this is not the year for them. I think they gotta find a quarterback, for the future. Minshew is okay. I think he might have a decent year, but I think it'll be up and down. I got Vegas finishing last in the division. Will they trade Devontae Adams? That's probably the biggest question going into the season for the Raiders. If they keep him, but I think they really try to win. If they trade him, then I think they're gonna blow everything. So keep an eye on that this year. I think if that happens, I think they probably look at the rebuild. So keep an eye on that during the trade deadline. And they probably if they start losing, they're gonna talk about that. So that's the only thing the Raiders going to be doing this year. Let's look at their schedule though, real quick. Right up top here. Okay. Start the season with a division game at the Chargers, then at the Ravens next week. So they first home game until week 3 against the Panthers, and they got Cleveland at home as well. Then they at Denver, then home for the Steelers, at the Rams, home for the Chiefs, at Cincinnati. Then they get a bye in week 10. At Miami, off the bye, then home against the Broncos, at the Chiefs, at the Buccaneers, come home for the Falcons and the Jags, then in New Orleans, and then they finish the season against the Chargers. So you play the Chargers first, and you say the Chargers last. I always thought that was interesting because you're a whole different team by then, through the whole season when you have a division, like that. So that's going to be interesting to check out. But Raiders, yeah, I just think, like I said, by trade deadline, like I said, the only thing Raiders fans probably look forward to is they're going to keep Adams or not. If they trade him, then you know what's about to happen. If they don't, then maybe they, like I said, maybe they'll try to win, try to push to win some games. So, because like I said, this quarterback class for next year is not, not as deep as it was the previous year. So, but the Raiders will be got to keep an eye on them. Is they going to pretty much punt on the season, or are they going to still try to win? So, I got them finish it last, personally myself. L.A. Chargers. This was kind of of course the Chiefs just finished it first. I think nobody. I'll have to wait and be uh, suspense on that. I got to finish it first, but I was flipping. I'm still even now like Denver and the Chargers. I just think Denver's the better team on paper, and I like Bo Nix. That's why I gave Denver the nod over the Chargers. Like I like Justin Herbert as well, but you don't have anybody, so I think they'd be better disciplined because of Harbaugh. I think if they win more of those close, goofy games they used to throw away with Brandon Staley. I think those days is over. I think he's gonna get the best out of Herbert, but just no weapons. You got no weapons to build around, so I think that's tough for the Chargers. So I gave them the nod over. I gave Denver the nod over them. Let's look at the Chargers schedule. Then we're gonna talk about the Broncos a little bit. And like I said, I was one of the ones that's saying Justin Herbert is he's just a little overrated. You can see the talent, but and it may not be his fault. But I think that's why I think this year is kind of big for him because now you were saying, well, not him personally, but people were saying, well, it's the coach. So now you got a good coach. Jim Harbaugh is proven coach. So we should see an improvement out of Justin Herbert, even though they don't have a lot of weapons. Just mentioned they play the Raiders this week. Then they at Carolina, at Pittsburgh, home for the Chiefs. They got an early bye, week 5. At Denver, at Arizona. Arizona is that? I'm guessing that's a Monday night game. It's ESPN Plus, so I'm guessing it's a Monday night. It don't start till 9. It's probably a doubleheader that night. Home for the Saints, then at Cleveland, then home 3 straight home games: Tennessee, Cincinnati, Baltimore, then at Atlanta, at Kansas City, then back home for Tampa and Denver. Then they finish on the road at New England, at Vegas. So, favorable schedule because I think they finish last. Or did the Raiders finish last? I think the Chargers finished last year, so they got a last place schedule, I believe. Like I said, the potential's there, but like I said, I just don't see it this year. I think Jim Harbaugh got to get more of the players that he likes in there, and it might take him a year to do it. So I got the Chargers finish at third. The Denver Broncos, like I said, I gave them a nod because they're just a better team on paper. They is going to go with the rookie Knicks to start. I liked him at Oregon and at Auburn. I hear a lot of people say he's probably already hit his ceiling, like how actually like Mac Jones. They think that's possible, But I just think he's a little different than Matt Jones. I just think he's just pretty much better than Matt Jones. So I don't. I can see why people are saying that, but I think he is going to take a step forward and have this team competing. I don't know about this year. I don't have them making the playoffs. I don't have the Chargers making the playoffs either. By the way, um, but I like the way this team is going. Sean Payton. Speaking of overrated, I just think uh, even though some people have been criticizing him a little bit, but not as much as they do like a Mike McCarthy, which I think, like I said, they pretty much got the same career. One Super Bowl title with a Hall of Fame quarterback. You know, with McCarthy. Well, McCarthy's in Dallas, but like I said, I think the difference is Peyton won in New Orleans, the Saints, which was the Aints forever, and they've won their first title. Green Bay was already established even before Aaron Rodgers with Brett Favre and Bart Starr. And they just already a established franchise, so I think he don't get as much credit for that Super Bowl as Sean Payton got for the New Orleans one. I think that's the difference, actually, where you were. So I think that's why we give longer leash to Coach Payton. But I think he's a good coach, and I think he's going to get the best out of Knicks. So I think Denver be one of those little pesky teams that you can't sleep on. But I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Let's look at their schedule. Let's see, right here, okay. At Seattle, like I said, that was probably supposed to be the Russell Wilson um, reunion there. But Russell Wilson do get to go to Seattle this year with the Steelers if he's still the starter. Like I said, well, is it? I mean, no, he go to Denver. I'm sorry. So he do miss out on playing the Seahawks. Um, versus Pittsburgh at home, at Tampa, at the New York Jets, home for the Raiders, home for the Chargers, at the Saints, home for Carolina, then at Baltimore, at Kansas City. That's a tough stretch there. Then home for Atlanta. That's probably the toughest part of the schedule for them. At Vegas, then home for Cleveland. That's a Monday night game. The New Orleans game is a Thursday night game, so that's nationally televised as well. Week 14 is the bye. They got the Colts at home, then at the Chargers, at the Bengals, and then they finish the season home against the Chiefs. Um, like I said, I think they're going to be a decent team. I think Bo Nix going to show why he could be a starter, but I still think they're going to fall short of the postseason. But I think they're going to be a decent team this season. Um, so that leaves the Chiefs. The defending champions will win the West again. I don't ask me on the top of my head. I know there'll be like 7 or 8 straight division titles. They've been to 7 straight AFC Championship games. They're probably gonna be 8. This team last year was the year to get them. I've been saying that ever since the AFC Championship game. I was like, that was the time to get the Chiefs. Now they're gonna be better offensively. They get Hollywood Brown. They sign a fast receiver. They draft a fast receiver from college. The name ain't coming to me right now. Travis Kelsey's still there, so the offense is going to be a lot better this year. Pacheco is going to be better. I like how he runs. So this Chiefs offense is going to get back to almost like when Tyreek Hill was in this offense. So Chiefs is a scary team. The division is softer, so I think they're running the division again. Um, Defensively is where they really improved. Chris Jones is now paid and motivated. Steve McLello got that defense playing at a high level. Um, Best team in football right now, to prove it otherwise. Hopefully tonight, the Ravens get them. As a Ravens fan, I'm hoping so. But this team, time and time again, rises to the occasion. And until otherwise, you got to give them their crown. So Chiefs easily wins this division. And let's look at their schedule for the defending champions. And then we're going to take a little small break, and then get into the award winners who I think will win MVP and all that stuff. All right, Chiefs. Where you at? Right here. Okay. Of course, tonight, starting at home against the Ravens, then home against the Bengals, then they at Atlanta. That's Sunday night game. At the Chargers, Then home for the Saints. That's the Monday Night Football. Get an early bye, week 6. Then they at the Niners Super Bowl rematch. At Vegas. Then home for Tampa. Home for Denver. At the Buffalo Bills. That's a rematch from the playoffs as well last year. At Carolina. Home for Vegas. Home for the Chargers. Then they got Cleveland on the road. Then they come home for the Houston Texans. That's a big interesting game as well. At Pittsburgh, Christmas Day on Netflix, and at Denver to end the season. So, like I said, a lot of even though they're the champs, the schedule's not bad. You got your revenge games: San Francisco, Buffalo, the Ravens tonight. The Bengals. I don't want to say it's a revenge game, but the Bengals probably about Joe Burrow. But pretty schedule that they could get through. I think they win like 13 games again, and get back to Chiefs football. I think we might see it tonight. I'm hoping the Ravens can win this game tonight. But the Chiefs are the champs, and until proven otherwise, they're the champs. So that's all 32 teams. We went through all 32 teams. Now we're going to get to the postseason awards, and then we're going to look at my playoff picture and my predictions going all the way up to Super Bowl 59. So thank you guys for joining me once again. Like I said, our next show will be next Wednesday. Don't know time yet. Probably I'll do it about noon, because I'll be home for work. So I'll probably do it about noon next week. So, and like I said, I'm gonna try to probably go start doing 2 shows a week. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching the playback, appreciate it. Shout out to my man Caper. Shout out to my man B. B, hope you good. I know your school started back up, so I know you're busy. But hopefully, like I said, when I get the PlayStation, we can run some games or something. So that's what I'm looking forward to next month. Like I said, we're gonna have a big, like, the end of the year. We're gonna have a lot of things coming up. We're gonna do a lot of fun things. So I appreciate you guys so much. So that's let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and get through this so we can get out of here. It's almost been an hour and a half. We're over an hour and a half, an hour and 42 minutes. Didn't think I was gonna be on here that long. So that means it's almost 4 o'clock. Huh? Yep. Okay. All right. Let's do the awards. Like I said, let's do the awards first. MVP. I think Pat gonna win it this year, because I think Kansas City probably get the 1 seed. I think his number's gonna go up. Like I said, he's a 2-time champion in a row. So I think some voters gonna vote with that in mind. That's why I said Lamar. Unless he had one of them crazy years. I think Pat gonna win it. I know it's easy to pick Pat, but I said we got some contenders. I think C.J. Stroud will be in the running. I think Jared Goff will be in the running for us quarterbacks. Hurts if he have a good year. Josh Allen. Tua, maybe, but he had to have an awesome year. Aaron Rodgers, Burrow. So you got guys that's going to be, depending on their season, it's going to have potential to go. I just think I think it's just paved the way for Pat this year. So I think Patrick Mahomes wins this year's MVP. Defensive player of the year, I'm going with Myles Garrett. Now, defensive player of the year is more tricky and open. But I just think he's the best defensive player now that Aaron Donald retired. T.J. Watt will have a lot to say about it as well. Chris Jones. I like Kyle Hamilton as a Ravens fan. I think he will be in the running. It'll be it's a lot of defensive guys that could be in the running. But I think Myles Garrett gonna have one of the monsters. I think he'll have close to 20 sacks if he stay healthy. I think the Browns and if so, the Browns, like I said, the Browns could probably sneak in and get a playoff berth. So I got him winning Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Caleb Williams, easy because, of course, he gets the start. Bo Nix will be in the running if he plays well. Um, but I'd be shocked if Caleb though win it. And in my defensive rookie of the year, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go Nate Wiggins, corner for the Ravens. I think he's gonna get a lot of snaps, and I think he's gonna get tried a lot. I think he's gonna probably get a lot of interceptions, and I think that's what's gonna help him win defensive rookie of the year. So there are my award predictions. Now let's go to the playoff picture. So according to my the way I broke everything down, we're gonna start in the NFC. I got Atlanta sneaking in the playoffs, being the 7th seed. Packers being the 6th seed, making the playoffs. The Rams, the 5th seed. Got the Buccaneers winning the South. That's the 4th seed. Eagles winning the East as the 3rd seed. Lions winning the North as the 2nd seed. And I got the Niners once again getting home field, um, like they did last year throughout the playoffs. So they are my playoff seeds from the NFC. AFC, Jets. Like I said, I got the Jets backing in the 7th spot. Bengals finishing in the 6th spot. Miami Dolphins in the 5th spot. Got the Bills finishing 4th and winning the East. I just think they're in a tougher division. Houston finishing 3rd. I think Houston and the Ravens going to fight for that. I think really Houston, Baltimore, and Kansas City can fight for the top seed. I think Buffalo's. I think they just will lose too many games. But I got Houston 3rd. I got Baltimore 2nd. I got Kansas City winning the AFC, being the 1 seed again. All right, so now it's down to the end of the show. My predictions. This was hard, but oh wait, before we move on, these are potential. I wrote down potential contenders, potential playoff contenders that could probably get the playoffs. In the NFC, I got Dallas. Of course, Dallas is a talented team. They might could win one of the wild card spots. The Bears, like I said, because of Caleb Williams and that offense, can they win enough games to get in? And the Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith in that defense, I think they have 3 potential playoff contenders. And in the AFC, I got the Jags, even though I don't, I'm not real high on the Jags, but I got the Jags. And then 2 AFC North teams, the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers, because of their defenses, and if they quarterbacks play well, maybe they could back in and get one of these playoff spots. But I think the way everything's set up, I just think those teams are going to fall just short and miss the postseason. Okay, so now let me predict who I think will be in the NFC Championship. Of course, the Eagles, I have a lot to say about it. A lot of people was high on Green Bay. Tampa, like I think Tampa is undervalued. I really think they are. I think with Baker, I think now that he's got, just somebody that believes in your play, I think he's going to have another decent year, get the Bucks in the playoffs. Rams, they've done it before, so you can see them being in. But I got the same 2 teams from last year in the rematch. I think Detroit and the Niners will meet again in the NFC Championship game. I just think I got a different outcome, though. I think the Lions will get revenge, and the Lions will make it to their first ever Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions is my NFC team. Even though they don't get the 1 seed, I think they still could go to San Fran, win that game, and make the Super Bowl. So I got the Detroit Lions coming out the NFC. AFC, again, hard again. Houston, just think they're too young. The Bills, Josh Allen, he just hasn't done it yet, so it's hard to get behind them. The Dolphins, of course, like I said, they might be one and done again. But I just think they're going to have a good regular season, but playoffs, you don't know. Bengals, done it before, so you can't count them out. But I just think this team just don't have enough. And the Jets, who I got making the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers, of course, he have all the experience, but I just think, like I said, he's been a bad playoff quarterback in his career. So say rematch from last year again. AFC Ravens and the Chiefs, and I think the Ravens get revenge. I think my Ravens make the Super Bowl. Yes, it's a little biased pick. I admit it, but I just think the Ravens. When I really look at the AFC, I really think we got the best team in the AFC from top to bottom. I mean, if you count defense and offense, Chiefs are right there. Houston is as well. I just think Houston needs a little bit more seasoning, But I think these teams ain't going nowhere. Buffalo lost. They got Josh Allen. Miami. Like these teams, the AFC is loaded. Like this whole playoff thing could be. I could be way off with it, but this is just how I feel. Yes, it's a little. Like I said, it's a little biased. I'm a Ravens fan, so I admit it's a little biased. But I think we gonna make it get to the Super Bowl. So it'll be the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens in Super Bowl 59, and of course, I'm going with the Ravens in a close, tight game. Lions get there, but they fall short. But I think they're gonna have many more opportunities. Now, I told you, I sort of contradicted myself because I thought last year was our best shot to win the Super Bowl last year. We'd have won the NFC Championship. We would have beat San Fran as well, and we would have won it. But I just think, I just believe in Lamar, and I think that loss really hurt him. I think they pretty like that game. Well, it was more coaching because, like I said, we tried to throw the ball, and it was a close game. I think you had to do that. You could have ran the ball more. I think they learned from that. So I think the next time um, we're going to be able to get it done. So I think we get it done this year. Ravens win the Super Bowl 59. So that's my predictions for the upcoming season. Almost 2 hours in, y'all. Tonight's game, let me talk about that real quick. I think the Ravens win a tight one. I think it'll be 20-17. I think a last couple, late field goal by Justin Tucker wins it. I think both teams will be rusty, especially us because we ain't played no starters in the preseason. Chiefs, I think, played about 1 or 2 series. So the atmosphere is going to be tight because they get the rings and the banners and all that. So I think both teams going to start off real slow. I think the second half you're going to see better football, and I think the Ravens win a close one, 20-17. That's my score prediction. I think the Ravens win it, and this game would be the game they need for for January to beat the Chiefs again in the playoffs. So this is a big game tonight, even though it's just week one, as far as a mental standpoint. So that's my prediction for tonight's game. Tomorrow's game, Eagles, Packers. I might talk about that tomorrow. I might do a short on it. But I don't know. I like the Eagles in that game. I think the Packers might. I don't want to say start off slow, but I think I think they got to get hit in the mouth again. Which I mean by that, I think everybody been pumping them up. So I think they're gonna sort of go in there and complacent. I think the Eagles gonna show them this is how you gotta play football, and then I think they get themselves back together and go on a run again this year. So that's my predictions for those 2 games. I probably put my picks in social media. I probably put them on social media. All my picks for the rest of the week, for Sunday and Monday night. Thank you guys so much, like I said, for joining me today. If you're watching the replay, definitely check out my channel. I got all my projects there, all my video game playthroughs. Most of them are old. I haven't been on PlayStation in a while, almost a year now. So, but I plan on trying to get back on there. But I got my shorts, my retro shorts. I'm gonna do one when I get off of here. I appreciate you guys so much. I love you guys. Let's try to get the 500 subscribers before the year's over with. Shout out to B. Shout out to Cape Crusader. Go Bears for you, bro. Shout out to our man James. I can't say go Steelers, but Steelers not bad. They just got to figure that quarterback situation out. But thanks to everybody. I appreciate you guys. I'm Troy West. Episode 271 in the books. NFL season preview special. And we got through it. Ravens will win the Super Bowl over the Detroit Lions. That's my prediction. Love you guys. See you guys next week. Appreciate it.